Blake Spelling.
Here.
Lucas Carter.
Here.
Alan Farmer.
Here.
Bo Green.
Here.
Doug Hughes.
Present.
Harry Mills.
Here.
Susie Perkins.
Next is council permission for mayor to sign any and all documents relating to lease of the Middlesboro Country Club property.
Can we ask questions before we get into that?
Yes.
Who's gonna start that question? You both?
I can ask mine. I met with you earlier and kind of went over what I went back, there's a few changes that I'd like to go over. Our first one is just a clarification about the new country club board, their advisory board. Let's see here.
Page you on,
That was on page 1. Item 3. Oh, go flip over all the way to the back. Where's the lease here? Page 1 of the lease.
to the lease part.
Okay. And then that also occurs under operational management.
Yes. Which actually states it's council, and mayor and council.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, I just make sure we stay at the new country club board, not the
Yeah.
that way it's 5 and 5. There's a question we want to go over with the city attorney about indemnity and insurance. And then we were talking about the debt to stockholders.
Yes.
Can you kind of let us know what that kind of covers?
My understanding of it is in the last 4 months, 3 to 4 months, different stockholders has given money to the club as a loan, and then it's put into their meeting that way, and that's where this money has come from. I do have a list that if you want to come by, we can look at. It doesn't become public record until we accept it in, but if you'd like to come look, I can show you. But that's what that is, and it's a total, let me count before I tell you wrong. 16 people at $17,400. Yes, which is in the contract, it's in the lease.
Okay.
The other thing we kind of talked about was, we recognize the need to pay them back. We thought maybe, well, the 6-month time period was a little aggressive or optimistic, so maybe we want to extend that out for a time period just to give us a little more leeway. We want to get it paid back at a big chunk out the top. And then on the lessee default, we'd like to see a written notice in case of default, and then a timetable to correct those default, try to sustain it to the default.
Normally like a 60-day period.
Yeah. That way we can address them and not just have a default basis also. That's pretty much covers
Anything
it.
else on the lease part there?
I think that covers my question.
On that 17-4,
Yes.
did they get anything in return out of that, such as a membership, or they pay that on top of that?
No, they loan that to the club to actually pay bills with.
Okay.
And that's what it was done. It's actually in their meeting as a loan. If anybody here is on the board, could you tell me am I right or wrong?
That's correct.
It was done as a loan.
So they had intentions of paying him back? Okay. Where are we gonna get the 17-4 to pay that back?
Well, that's where we put the 6-month period, we talked about a 24, it has to be through operation. It has to be through operation, just like any loan, like mortgage and everything else, would be through operation of the club.
So if we can't, in 6 months, if we can't do that, we'll just take it out of our general fund, taxpayer dollars, reimburse 16 people.
You just had an amendment.
And that's what he just
I'll
asked for.
extend that.
Well, extend it a little bit, okay, let's just say we do it over 3 years, or however it may be, 5 years, 7 years, the whole term of the first lease. If we can't come up, we have to pay for it out of taxpayers' money, correct?
We'll pay for it out of operational money, is what we'll pay for it out
I
of.
think what he's asking is where's the operational money from?
It comes from operating the club as far as dues, carts, rentals, green fees, and that's where the budget will sit in, Gary, on that part. And that's where it all comes from, is operation.
I guess I'll ask the members, you loan the money to the club, is that correct? Yes. And then the club be responsible for paying you back, rather than the city?
I think that's what the compromise thing.
How many of you would forgive that if we took over and say, I don't need that money back? And you gave, do that? You have one, okay. Which I ain't seen the list, so I don't know if any of you guys may not be on there, so I'm just saying, I'm just curious if, I've not seen the list, I don't know whose name.
Well, I would think we'd have to get the people together to discuss that. We couldn't speak here for them.
I just thought it's some of you guys, like I said, I've not seen the list, I don't know whose name is on it, who's not.
Well, one of the other options, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn, is, you know, if there's, let's say, most people gave $1,000. You know, it might be that they could take that in dues, instead of paying dues for the club, or to the city for the club. Take it out in grease fees or cart fees or something like that. I'd say most of the people that gave it would probably be receptive, but I can't really speak for all.
Sure.
And that's where the extension of 6 months came in, JC, is we need to discuss 24 months, which would be 2 years. And that's where that came in some, and that's what we were talking about.
Oh, okay.
Any others?
We're still in, I'm still, I guess, stuck on us paying a debt, whether it be 3 months, 6 months, or a year, or 5, that we did not incur. I'm a little concerned.
Well, this is similar to the mortgage and everything, where if it's a loan to the club, it's part of their debt service right there down here. So if we're gonna take it over, we need to look at it, and that's just part of what we've looked at. That's why we're having the conversation.
Okay, regarding the conversation, I'd like to say that, I'll speak for myself, I've gotten paperwork from you, from your office, and from members of the club, but I don't know, was anybody on the council in on the negotiations?
On what part of the negotiation?
Any?
That's what we're bringing to you. As with everything, Gary, and you've been here 30 years, the package is always put together and presented. 40 years, I'm sorry, and you can always look at it, and you've done it many times. You've always had a package delivered to you, and that's what I did. I've got to handle the day-to-day.
Well, I just make it clear that,
Looked at it.
that's what we're doing right now, is
Yeah.
looking at the package.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, I see the 201,000, is that all that's owed, is that the only debt? That's the only one I'm showing besides the 17.4, but I thought there was a line of credit somewhere.
There's a line of credit, but the debt is only 186.
186.
And the line of credit puts it at 211.
Well, and I didn't see the payment amount in these papers, was it in there?
1603.
Total for
Yes, I
everything?
had to get it from Baylor myself on that.
So we would take on the $1,603 monthly payment.
We will end up paying it same through operations, yes. Because remember something, we're also not paying any rent or anything. They're not getting any funding to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Yes.
What causes that debt, so we know what we're taking over? What, is that operational over the years, or?
Because I see the dates
Or is
are-
it still mortgages against the land, or how does it work?
I'll tell you, I really can't get into details.
Okay.
Kevin and Joe Carroll would be the ones that have to answer that.
And they're the what, president and vice president, that's the way it kind of works?
Joe's
Secretary.
president and Joe's the secretary treasurer.
And they're not, neither one of them here tonight? No?
No.
Okay.
I don't know what we can do tonight, other than just talk, because if we can't get into details,
I mean, what details are you want to get into? That's what I'm.
I think there's a lot of questions. I'm quite sure that I'm the only one that has a question.
I've got, that's him. Like I said, don't even tell the mortgage payment in it. It says they're dead, it says the 17.4, it doesn't show no contract between those members and the club, it just says 17.4.
And I've just told you, it doesn't have the 17.4 and 16 names. until we take it in, because it's not public record till then.
So-
As I told you, you can look at it, I've got it, but it's not, I'm not gonna put 16 names.
Sure, I understand that, but I mean, is it like they have like a written agreement signed with?
My understanding, they had it in a meeting as a loan, and people knew they were loaning it, and loaning it to the club. And the board of directors, who operates it just similar to what we do, accepted it that way. And yes, sir, Bob.
Mind you,
Yes.
speak to the board, council. I'm one of the, those that belong to the club. That was back, before Christmas, about Thanksgiving. We were behind on our bills, water not being turned off, electricity turned off, all of it, everything. So, once of us got together and pledged some money to, make it through the winter, in the hopes that golf would pick up, in the spring. It didn't, because the course is in pretty bad shape. I think that, I don't know what you have in front of you, but I think you're talking about leasing the golf course and the pro shop, but the building would remain as it is. I know that Lucas, you had your wedding reception out there, would be available for people like that. I had my wedding reception out there. We had the Boho meetings. It's a facility. If the bank takes over, what will happen to that facility? We've got, and the way I view this, I understand it's a serious decision that you're all faced with, but in the big picture, it's a component of a recreation program that the city of Middlesboro ought to have. Now, I wish we could, that the club was self-sustaining like it has been for all those years, but, in the world we live in right now, it's not. I think we ought to have, all, activities for everybody from the kindergarten level up to the level of these old men like J.C. McDaniel. It's just part of a thriving community, and another thing is what will happen to that property after it's taken over. I know that, Susie, you live close to the golf course. What would happen to that if it fell into the wrong hands? What if we had Section 8 housing in the country club building? What if it became a junkyard? There are all kinds of things that could happen to that wouldn't be pleasant for the neighbors. So I would ask you all to, you're certainly doing your job in scrutinizing it, but we've got to get that thing back on its feet and now, and start, trying to get it so that we can be playing on it next year. It's also part of our tourism attraction. If we package it, I think we can get folks to want to play that, to receive a bag tag or something to say that I played in one of the nation's oldest golf clubs. So it's a not easy decision for y'all. I understand that, and certainly wouldn't be hard on anybody who couldn't support it, but I think it's too important to let die and have the bank take it over, and that's what they'll be forced to do, whether they want to or not. They will be forced to take it over and do what they do. I think
this is a really emotional decision for the people up here on this council. I don't think there's a soul up here that wants to see this country club die. Too much of the town we've had that happen. On the other hand, from my point of view, I also have to consider the logical and the realistic look at whether the city can afford this. It's going to be a big bite of money. And that's why I think there's some hesitation. And I won't speak for the others, but I believe there's some hesitation because as you all know better than we do, it's gonna take a crew, it's gonna be full-time. They're gonna have to be specialists in the field. You know, just not anybody can go cut that grass and get those greens right. And I'm looking at the whole picture, that's why I'm hesitant at this point, as to whether the city's financially able. Now, emotionally, I'm 100% on your side. I hope, I'll swear, I hope I'm wrong. If that we can, I'm afraid whether or not we can handle it. I hope I'm wrong. And I would gladly come back in 5 or 7 years and say, by God, I'm wrong. I'm really happy. But I consider the entire town, I'm not sure we're that financially able to do what can't be done privately. So I'd like to ask, has anyone considered approaching a financial group or entrepreneurs who would be willing to invest their own money and work the same deal out with you, but they would be making a profit from it? Because I know the YMCA came to Middlesboro, and when they couldn't support themselves, they came to the city. And they said, well, we don't have enough interest generated to keep the YMCA and going on. The swimming pool eventually came under our control. It's free. What's it cost them? $60,000, $70,000 a year. I don't know how much we can keep doing. And I understand the tourism, I understand the interest, and I understand the history. I'm just concerned about the hard finances of the whole deal. And that's the only reason I'm not saying no right now, but I'm holding back on yes.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
I share all of Mr. Vaughn's feelings about the golf course, and I have some of the same concerns that you have as well. I think personally, if we can figure out a way to make this a break-even proposition in Davis Golf Course, we should. This is why I met with the mayor, and I think what we talked about today was to present some financial plan or budgeting for the golf course at the finance subcommittee meeting next Tuesday.
That'd be great.
And then making these few changes to this lease, and tabling this for 1 week.
I want to,
summarize that.
yeah.
But I am in favor if we can make this work for, and we can present that and find out some of the costs and make a few changes to the lease.
Could I say something?
And I will, just, yeah, go ahead.
Mike Markham, retired postal worker, used to work for Bob's up here down here. Just a couple of questions I don't understand as a citizen and taxpayer.
You know, 5 appointments from the mayor with council approval, and
Okay, so
5
you all-
and 5 from the country club also, which is a pretty normal thing. There's boards everywhere here, Mike, and that's a pretty normal thing.
But I understand, and I'm for people in the country club, don't get me wrong. I think it's a great act, don't call it. But I'm not at keeping the country club at my expense. I understand these men, most of them businessmen, throw in $1,000. I can help that if you make a bad investment. It's not my fault. So you probably need these guys. Because I would have to if I'd invested $1,000 in something and lost it, then it's gone. So I would ask you first to get back to your members and say, let's eat that. Don't make the taxpayers pay for a bad investment for you all. After $17,400, 16 stockholders, I don't feel as a citizen of Middlesboro taxpayer that I should have to pay for someone else's investment. If I make a mistake in investments, Mike has to pay for it. If there's any way in the world we can keep that golf course and it not be a burden on the taxpayers, I'm 100% for it. If it's open to the public. I wasn't allowed on that golf course when I was a guy. So, that's neither here nor there. Operating expenses. 1, 2, 3, we've got several members, and nobody give me how much it's gonna cost to operate this thing. Has anybody got any idea what it costs?
It went for 14 years, everywhere between 185 and 210, Mike.
Okay, one other side.
You need to figure more than that, Mike, because that wasn't enough to make us succeed, so.
Well, I understand it, but it's my understanding, maybe, and one of you tell me if I'm wrong, that the last 10 years you've not made any money on it? Is that correct or incorrect? Okay.
Well, I just, what you brought up and Luke's brought up is, if you give that as a figure for the operating expenses, we better keep in mind that it was a losing proposition for those years. So those aren't the operating, but those were the operating expenses, but it changed. So we're gonna have to have more than that as operating expenses, and that's the question that
The expenses are correct, the revenue didn't cover the expenses, and that's by the law, is that correct?
Yeah.
Isn't that what I said?
The expenses would have to be, no, the expenses are correct.
Well, let
Their financial statement showed a negative, they didn't have enough revenues to cover that, so we need to increase the revenues or cut expenses.
Okay, well, I'm just saying we can't operate under the numbers that were given to us.
Correct.
Okay.
Because the numbers that were given to us did not work.
And that's the reason, Gary, that it would be hard for a private individual, but a city can't, and it's been done in 47 places here in the state of Kentucky. And the reason they can is a couple different things. One, you're gonna be saving money on utilities. They haven't been able to put a pond or put a well or anything out there. It cuts all your costs out of that part of it, Gary. Two, you're not gonna be able to use the men we have extra that come from prison to work with us to go out there and take care of you. You cut your labor in almost half out there, is what you're gonna end up doing.
So you're gonna.
Three, you're not gonna, they're gonna be working with the gentleman, yeah, we've looked at all that. And to be honest with you, that's all been brought up with all of them here, and they've all been asked for the last, and they've all have been asked for the last couple months to please call, come down and see it, and we can go through every bit of it individually. So I'm not saying we need, Bo and I talked ahead of time, because he had a couple things with the lease, and I said we'd be better off not voting tonight on it. If you feel that way, let's change the lease.
Question.
But the thing is, you cut your taxes out of it, okay, you cut that part out of it, you cut your water and utilities down drastically, you got your sewer, which you wouldn't pay yourself like you don't with any of these other functions.
I'm
We don't
for it.
pay ourselves. I understand now, I'm giving you asked because you were looking at numbers.
Let me ask you.
Dollars on the expense side total, and that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
If you look at it and look at the revenue, now you're looking at a break even. And the city's not getting in this to make money. We're never looking at anything on that part of it. We go into business. That's what we're trying to do.
Right.
Pay for it, keep the operations there, because whether you and I played as kids on it or not, children, and I apologize for using the term kids, children still won't be able just to run loose on it even
Oh,
when
I
you go
understand
pub.
that,
But with that being said, you will be able to come up and play.
I'm hard at it now.
I got you, but you will be able to, Mike.
Another question.
Can
Yeah.
I respond to a question you asked earlier?
Yes.
Because I think this was explained earlier, we're talking about paying back the stockholders $17,000, and you said that shouldn't come straight from the taxpayers, and I think that's agreed upon. So one of the things we've asked is the term in the lease as it is that they be paid back in 6 months. And we didn't feel there's any way to pay that back in 6 months off of the operation of the club. It might not make that money. So that's why we've asked that it be amended to at least 24 months. That way, that money can come from people that's golfing, all those people, it's not coming from the taxpayers.
I understand that.
Or if they wanted to take it off, like you said, great too.
And the other part, I'm not gonna say a bad investment, because what they were trying to do more than anything else is loan the country club money, so they could keep the one thing that we have that no other club in the nation's got, the oldest
I
continuing
understand
play,
that.
and that's what they were trying to help.
I'm for that.
Well, I wanna ask you,
Yeah.
you've asked the questions, give us a chance, we'll answer. Go
My
ahead.
understanding is, I believe the last council meeting, the one before that our fund was $575,000. Is that correct? We have a fund that
We have a safety net.
safety net.
Of the profit.
Now, would that come out of that safety net, or, got $575,000, not much for a city
No,
this size.
no, I'd love to have quite a
Calamity
bit
or
more.
shock.
I'd love to have quite a bit more. But that's what I have coming in, and we've been able to maintain and keep for 5 years, and that's what we're trying to keep. We want to keep that as a safety net. I'd like to have 10% of over budget. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I wouldn't.
Now,
We're not at 10%.
Mr. Vaughn mentioned the building itself. The city won't own that, or will the city own that building, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
We won't own anything. It's a $1 a year lease that runs all facilities that are up there.
Is this gonna be a public
Yes,
club?
yes, 100%.
Open to the public?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I have a question to some of you. Have any
No,
other?
I'd rather you question the council.
Okay, is it, all right.
Well, I mean,
Have
just,
they, no, I was just gonna ask them, is it easier for the city to get a grant, or have they tried to get some grant? We're talking about tourism. We can't get a grant for nothing this area.
well, that's far from being true.
Well, that's-
Yeah, there's quite a few out there.
I
It's
understand.
just each one's in different
Is
areas.
it, would it be easier for that board, since I can't talk to them, to get it, or?
Well, I'm not saying you can't talk, you know better than that.
I'm just asking, have they
Yeah.
tried for any grants, or is this,
They haven't, it's hard for a private
Well, that's
individual,
what I'm asking.
yeah, it's real hard for a private. I will say that, too.
It's been open to the public now for the past, what, 10 or longer than that?
Longer than that.
Yeah,
Well,
I've
about 20 years.
Has it been that long, or it's been a while?
I know it's been open to the public, I understand that. And that brings another, if it's been open to the public for 20 years, why are we not making any money?
Right down to the same thing, it comes down to the real title. They were paying 8-10% each year, good and bad. There's a few years they were above their budget, few below. That's where your difference of how you can manage it or not. And that's one reason we didn't take it lightly when we put this together. And I called a lot of other courses. I asked the other cities, how did this work? As much as painful as one of the last ones, we actually used their lease and all the work on it. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a great asset.
When I joined 40-some years ago, they had 120 members on a waiting list.
Mhm.
And, the members were, me, downtown merchants, who are not here anymore,
Mhm.
were doctors, dentists,
Yeah, I mean,
lawyers. Our middle class disappeared when the big box stores came in, and there was such a high percentage now of people that are looking for wages, hourly wages, that the membership rentals are like 38 or something like that. Doesn't mean that they won't play golf, it means that they're not gonna pony up $800 or $900 initially to join the club. They will pay when they play, and I'm not gonna say this is a lucrative deal, but I think it's a situation where the city needs to provide, preserve this as a vital part of the recreation.
well, I agree with that, as long as it don't hurt the common man. Right. That's my concern, is, I mean, I worked for post office 22 years, I paid $1,100 a month for work. As far as the country club, great, if we can keep it or continue, I understand that, but I just don't want it to come back on the citizens and have to pay for something that maybe was excuse me, managed like this. That's all I'm saying, you know, we all manage something, that's all.
And I will tell you two things that are in the lease. One, if it ever gets where a city can't manage it, pay the mortgage, hand it back, the mortgage is give back to the stockholders, okay? Two, if for any reason it starts flourishing and the stockholders wanna take it back over, they have to first pay the capital investment money back before they can actually break the lease and do it right. We didn't do this without looking at.
Oh, I'm sure you didn't, I just don't know the facts, I need to know, if people ask me, I mean, it's, you know, it's all the time, why should we, and this is kinda asking some of the questions to them. Honestly, there's a bad taste in town about it, because,
Well, I can give you the opposite, I'd say out of the majority I've had,
Yeah.
it's been way more positive than it, so. And I don't think you and I run that many different circles, because I see it.
what wrong with you?
Well, I don't want you in a circle, but they're where we're.
No, I just want to know, for the people that ask me, the taxpayers, you know, we don't want something, and if we've only got $575,000 in contingency funds, we sure can't spend any of that.
Great question.
I mean, I'm sorry, we just can't, because that, to me, $575,000, when something happens, you shot. But I'm not against the country club whatsoever, and I want you to know that. I just wanted you back, and Pete overrun it, in my opinion.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone?
I like every one of you out here. I grew up at the golf course all my whole life. I played golf up there when I was a kid. It's almost like a safety place to go when my mom and dad had to work. I could run up the hill, play golf, swim, enjoy it. I want nothing more than the country club to stay, but I'm afraid that we'll be wishing for a mulligan if we take this on without somebody unanswered questions. I don't even know how much it's gonna cost to get the steel, to get the course back up to playable condition. Nobody's told me any
Well,
cost.
that
He's
cost-
saying that the council's been presented that. Some of them may, I can't speak on behalf. I've not been presented with prisoners, nobody has told me that. So I wanna clarify that up. Nobody has told me personally weigh in.
You called and asked?
I don't chase. I think if I'm in a meeting, it should be open to the public. I think the public should decide. Do they want to?
We've all come to this, the mayor says it's easier for him, us to get hold of him, and him to get hold of 9
You've got
people.
9 people,
I've called him, he's told me everything I want to know, and the whole.
and you sit right in that chair right there, and I sit right there and told you, and you can say anything you want. Bell County Fiscal Court was gonna help us with it. I told you we were working on helping with it on so much of the money to put in. You were told that in the beginning, Lucas. You sit at the country club at the other, so when you come in here and say you haven't heard it, I can say Gary might not have heard part of it, he missed some, but you were there.
I went to
sir.
their stock.
You were
I went
there.
to their
Thank
stockholder
you.
meeting at the live.
Yes, sir.
And one other question.
You're good at it.
One other question, that I don't completely understand.
We can't work on private property, Mike.
What, I know, but if we take it over, and we say we're gonna do this, what kind of expense are we talking about to get it back in good playing shape?
That's what we're discussing with Bell County Fiscal Court.
Don't have any
They have
idea, or-
committed, yes, that's what we
Can
went
you
over
give me an
in
idea?
here. That's what we went over in here. If you listen to me, and you can get part of that.
Okay,
It was $200,000 if we
Understand that.
wanted to put it completely back with the clubhouse building, okay?
Okay.
This is a workshop type building. This come from a gentleman that built golf courses throughout the nation. He brought a plan. I told him that building couldn't be part of it, especially urban and stuff. We just need to know what to get the playing surface and
so
stuff back.
200,000 get back to playing?
No, that was with the building and all, we cut it out. We're a little over 100,000, just over 100 to get it back. And that's actually,
Okay, I'm sorry.
well, I guess I'm having a hard time hearing over. But anyway, it's 100,000 and just over to redo the greens, do the fairways, put sprinklers in, put drainage, which is all something that we wanna do, okay? And that's where that's coming from. That's the capital investment that I referred to just a little while ago, that if they ever break the lease as stockholders, they must pay all that back before they can break the lease. Because Bell County Fiscal Court is willing to put 50,000 in, and we're willing to put it in, or we're looking to put it in.
And that's besides the 250,000 debt, is that correct, or am I incorrect?
250,000, we're not taking over, Mike. We're only making payments as we operate the club. If 20, 30 years down the road we've operated, I think it's a year, I can't tell you when the lease or when it's on here, when it matures.
2027.
If we're still operating at 27, then yes, we've worked the club well enough that it was able to pay off $211,000, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And if we've done that, I'm gonna call it one of the most successful endeavors we've taken in a long time in the city of Middlesboro. Because you've saved your golf course up there, you've saved everything up there, and you've allowed the operation of the course to pay every bit of the debt back. That's a win-win for everybody.
Stockholders would still own it.
Huh?
The
They
stockholders.
still own the land. They still own the land.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll always own the land. The city doesn't want, that's one thing we discussed in the beginning. I would be completely against making that purchase, because then we're putting the city in for all of it if we do that. We're actually using our money to do it instead of operational money, if that happens.
Thanks, sir.
Anyone else, sir?
Gary, you had asked, we looked other places.
Sorry.
And we discussed with LMU, probably over, 6, 8 months, bring some of their people over as memberships. And, we thought it was going along pretty well, but, ultimately it ended up that, they said they weren't in. They wanted all or nothing, in other words.
I was gonna ask if you could share with me why it didn't go.
It would be their total control, or else, they didn't want to partner.
Well, I was thinking of not only entrepreneur groups, but even historic preservation societies, because this certainly is something that should be looked at and preserved. And I'll tell you the truth, in my imagination, I'm not even thinking about as is, but as was. The pictures of people on the third green wearing knickers and, you know, the old clubhouse, that would be something wonderful to have. But I think it would have to be done privately.
And I'm just going from what I've been told, I don't have any facts or data on it, but they actually looked at the historical preservation. But that went out whenever they replaced the original building. When you had the original building, it met the criteria for the historical funds. But once that building was torn down and the new one was built, then it didn't meet the criteria. You can't question me about the logic of that, but that's what I was told.
I wouldn't, I know what's happened. It's happened all over town, actually. We've taken historic buildings and just put up square brick buildings.
But for several years, many years, we've seen our income doing this, and we've tried to adjust like any business, and we've tried to adjust our expenses the same way, but you reach a point where you don't have a product to sell. And that's where we've gotten to the point where, because of the limit on our income, we've had to back down, and we reached a point where we now have a product that we've looked, as I said, we looked at LMU, and we brainstormed several issues, but nothing, this is it.
I know all of you sitting here, and I know I don't want to explain myself, but I want to explain my thinking. And that is that the city is having the same problems that the country club has had, and that other businesses here have had, is a declining income, so to speak. You know, we're not making more and more and more. And when we consider, I have to look at it as a councilman. We've got fire, police, street, ambulance, garbage pickup, all these things are necessities. And when it comes to recreation, I guess I'm old school. If you got the money, I say go for it. But, you know, there's times when we were all growing up, and if you didn't have money for a movie, you didn't go. And I don't know if the city can afford this big a fight. That's my consideration. And like I said, I'm not defending myself. I'm just trying to explain why I feel the way I do, so you and the other councilmen will know I'm not just being contrary, or I don't want to see the country club disappear.
Okay, we have a great town here, a great city. But you also, and we talk about tourism, and certainly tourism and the addition of the country club, an upgraded country club, will help in drawing people into the community. I think Scott Mays made an excellent point in the paper that in support of what we're doing, or what we're hoping happens, that when people come into the community, they'll have an option to play not only Wazioda or Middlesboro Country Club or Cedar Hill or what, but anyway, it's just another attraction. And we keep talking, tourism, which is great, but you also have a quality of life for the people that live in this community. You need to have something that will draw people. I'm not saying it's going to draw, great numbers in, but if somebody comes here, if you have doctors that are coming into town, or another company that wants to relocate here, if you come in and you've got a club or other issues, and I'm not talking about just for the club, I'm talking about the community as a whole. if you have something that'll attract them to that community. And we strongly feel that when we get it back up, or when you get it back up, if you do, that you'll have a product that's gonna hopefully support itself, but it's also gonna draw people in. This is one of the things, that I think that when LMU was looking at it, I understand from over there, and I'm speaking way out of turn here, and I may get my head chopped off for this, that they were having trouble retaining professors over there. Some of them, that may be wrong, okay, let me put that up front. But sort of the impression I got that this would be something that would attract, if we could make this into a university club or something, you know, that would help them to keep the point I'm trying to make is, it's an attraction that's not just tourism, but it's also quality of life here in town. And if it's been restricted in the past, years back, then certainly, you know, you've got something that's for the young people that can, another option for the young people. I'll get off my soapbox.
I think you've explained yourself very well. Thank you.
And I agree with you, it would be, but one thing I would like to say is, I feel that, you know, for the past couple of years, everybody knows all the hardships that the country club's had, and people have been hesitant to really want to support the country club because they've had this feeling that it's futile, you know? And I think that if the city gets involved, you know, it can be done because the way we can run it cheaper than a private business can run it. We got tax breaks, we can use inmates, it can be done cheaper than it's ever been done before. I think it's something that's feasible. In trying to make up my mind about this, I've met with the mayor multiple times. This isn't anything I've taken lightly for the citizens of Middlesboro. I've spoken to attorneys about the lease. I've had the chance to speak with people who run golf courses and talked about, you know, what kind of difference is that gonna make if we have, you know, 5 or 6 laborers that we can go send out there to work for free, just like we have inmates working all over the city. The mayor with our normal ratio, we can send 6 inmates out cutting grass with 1 city worker. You know, to have those type of abilities to run this thing, it can be done cheaper than it's ever been done before. So I think when you're looking at cost and revenues, it's something that we can do it and have a better chance at breaking even.
Since you've asked those questions, I'll ask you. Do you honestly believe that several prisoners working for lunch, so to speak, are going to be able to maintain a class golf course?
If you listened earlier,
Or are we going to have to hire 8 or 10 or 12 people, a full crew, to work
we're
on
gonna
a
have to,
daily basis?
no, listen, Gary, there's gonna have to be somebody who knows how to care for greens, okay? There's gonna have to be an employee hired there eventually who knows how to care for the greens and tee boxes, things that are mandatory. I absolutely believe that prisoners can cut fairways. That's no different than cutting a field or, you know, something like that.
Although one more analogy on what she said. G.H. campus. When I moved here, we was thriving men's store and the village youth. And it was supporting 2 families. And as time went on, they had their receipts, their income, revenue went down. Their corresponding, what they did then was reduce stock. They didn't have much. Every year they had less. Finally, Jerry Campbell was the last born. He could order you a suit, but he didn't have one in stock.
Right.
Now, that happened to him, and it happened to several, and try to cut your way to prosperity, you can't do it. We've got to turn this town around and approach it from the point where we got real growth. There was that sign outside of town says 12,251 population. Right now, the state says we got about 9,800. That's almost 25% reduction in our population. and that population's getting older, and they're under the Homestead Act, so you're getting less property taxes than you were before. But, you know, I just, from a businessman point of view, I just feel like that you've got to take an approach that allows you to be more attractive to the people that might want to live here. And I certainly have no ill feeling toward anybody who has a different idea. But I think, I certainly believe that you would be doing the right thing if you did this. And true, it may not turn out.
Well, I promise this is the last thing. This is the last thing I'll say. One thing we need to understand is this is not our money. We're talking like, you know, if you all will invest, if you all will help us, if you'll do, and we get that a lot. This is not our money. This is the taxpayers' money. And my concern is that I spend it to the best advantage to the taxpayers all. I know what you're saying. You were great in your explanation, bringing more in, and that picked things up. It'll raise the level of everyone. But I'm just exceptionally cautious by spending other people's money that I've been entrusted with. And I'm done for the evening, I guess.
Kevin?
I'll discuss more, I guess, with the finance meeting, but like I said, I've had some numbers from Mr. Sampson Bailey, and those numbers were a little higher than the 100,000 mark, so I understand that maybe if we do some of that, it's gonna cut the labor. Again, I'm not against the country club, I wanna see it stay, just not sure the city's capable of doing it. I'm not sure, I guess maybe I'm looking at a different vision, I'm looking at a perfect golf course like Wood Lake and Pineville, I want it just as nice as that. Not sure that we can make it that way. And maybe we can make a decent course and, you know, it won't cost near as much. To make a nice course, I feel like there's gonna be more money spent than what's being called out.
Myself, during this whole thing, it reminds me of my grandfather. He told me when I was real young, told me and C.T. Bowe, that you boys need to learn the word tolerate. He said, because you have to tolerate things in order for the good to come about. And if you're not going to do nothing, you ain't going to get nothing. If you do something and try to make it build up, it will build up. Look at me. I'm an old Will Sylvain boy. I'm retired chief of police. I mean, when I was growing up, they told me if I got past the levee up here, the world fell off. There wasn't nothing but no town junction and Klondike. But I used to walk down there and do a little caddy, and I got a little mad because the doctor only gave me 50 cents for walking 18 holes. I wouldn't go back for a while. But I just wanted to, and if we can do it without the citizens of Middlesboro, what we're up here. We do this without cost to the city, and I think that it could be a profit to myself type thing. But we have a concern about the citizens of Middlesboro. I don't want my grandsons having to pay for something that they didn't do. And that's, you know, that's what I said, because I'm 99%, because I live close to it. Matter of fact, I'm getting ready to plant apple tree right close to it. But I don't want y'all stealing my apples.
Table this for 1 week to give us the time to make the changes we discussed earlier to the lease. And then I will inform the council, the mayor has the operational from the last 15 years of the club. You can go by his office and review that, and you can see the expenses yourself. He won't give it public, it makes sense because they are a company. But he does, we'll share that with his office. And also, we'll go over the budget at the finance meeting next Tuesday and go over the cost for whatever to make it playable, and go over all that, and give us 1 week to get all this straightened out, so we can all be on the same page.
And are we in agreement that a week from today, we look at the numbers Tuesday, we're voting next Thursday? I
Almost we table
I'll
approval.
say it's time to vote on it.
Can we wait after the election is coming up? I think that's very special in helping decide.
I can't be here next
The
week at all.
election,
What's that got to do with them?
well, that can contribute a lot to the economy from what I'm hearing. So, I mean, that could change things, that may make it more beneficial. Some of those that don't believe in it right now may change, and they believe in it.
Be careful, Lucas, you're gonna get on them what ifs, and them what ifs will get you in trouble.
My motion.
He's got a motion.
He's got a second.
Got a second. Any other discussion?
In that, we have a community forum, and can they come that night?
Subcommittee meetings are open to people.
Okay, so we'll make announcements so people can come for it and against it.
Always, yeah, we always make an announcement.
Well, by that, okay.
I want to know that I've already scared to get out of town, I'm not bugging out.
I'll second.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to.
No, you can go ahead and do it.
I don't know. I didn't know.
I pretty well expressed my opinion.
I think they got time for it.
Well, that's a question, is there a timetable? I don't know that. Well, when we adjourn, would you tell me the timetable?
Real quick before you adjourn.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, we met with LMU and, JT kind of touched on it. They did volunteer to help with this as well, so,
And Jamie, I apologize on that, their class, correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie, you were there too. Their class is actually on golf and golf etiquette and things like that. He's wanting to put a lab up there at the course as part of his class, so you would have free labor again out of a lot. No, that's not a fair way to say it, didn't mean to say free labor. We'd have people up there that were doing their class work and all, that would be beneficial and helping as far as your rangers, your starters, and all different things like that, which keeps us.
It was
golf coach, instructor, has volunteered to assist on the course as well. And this is what you cut. This is
Well, that's
what
why I
you cut.
question President, you know, because I know the people go to college to learn how to do it.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, that's good, you know.
Call for question.
Do what? Yeah.
Call for question.
You wanna do a roll call on that, please?
Kevin Barnett, Blake Bowman,
Can I verify, is that to have a meeting to discuss the numbers and vote next Thursday?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Would you say you?
The motion is to table for a week to make the changes to the lease that we discussed earlier. Meet on Tuesday to discuss the finances, and then vote next Thursday.
That's great. I'm in favor.
Lucas Gordon,
Aye.
Alan Farmer, Bo Green, Doug Hughes, Terry Mills,
Aye.
Susie Person.
Make a motion, adjourn. Need a second. Got a second, all in favor?